إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وقال الله سبحانه وتعالى أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون وبعد فيا إخوة الإيمان. My beloved brothers and sisters, we're gathered once again here to express our gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to testify to His oneness, to acknowledge to Him all that He has provided for each and every one of us, each and every day of our lives. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our sincere efforts to please Him. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make our circumstances well. O Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we ask you to give us the courage and the strength and the faith and the patience that is needed to confront our challenges, inshallah. The Imams of the country have been going around the country addressing a particular topic which has become really important for the Muslim community as well. And that is the topic of suicide. September has been declared the National Month for Suicide Awareness, Prevention Awareness Month. And unfortunately, this issue of suicide have always been associated with Muslims. First of all, the media have constantly tried to link suicide with Islam and kind of trying to convince the populace that this is part of our religion, to commit suicide. And this is nothing is further from the truth. La taqtulu anfusakum. Very simple words in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, do not kill yourselves. The Prophet ﷺ said, the person who kills himself with any instrument, Allah will torture him with that instrument on the Day of Judgment. The Prophet ﷺ tells us, La darar wa la dirar, that we are a community, we don't harm people, including ourselves, and we don't reciprocate harm with harm. We do what is better. And so we come from a position where our Sharia guarantees life. It is one of the rights of the human being to be guaranteed the right to live. And so as far as Islam is concerned, it is very clear, and there's no debate about whether Muslims support suicide or not. Unfortunately, the national statistics have shown that suicide is a rising phenomenon in the United States. The 12th leading cause of death now is by suicide. And among the 10 and 14-year-old kids, it is the second leading cause of death. 15 to 24-year-old kids, the third leading cause of death, a preventable disease, a preventable event. And our young people are dying from suicide. Over 79% of the suicide being committed are done by men, although women attempt it more times. Usually a person who commits suicide would have attempted it between 10 to 20 times before they succeed. And half of the cases of suicide have been attributed to mental health issues. They come from mental health issues. And so it is something which is here as part of the phenomenon of the society. And when they polled the Muslims, they found that out of all the different groups, the Muslims are twice as likely to commit suicide than the other groups. That's where we're at. Almost 8% of those polled by the Muslims said they have tried to commit suicide. In the richest country of the world, people are killing themselves. And the reason for suicide, there's many different reasons. There's no one particular reason. As we said, 46% of the cases were from mental health issues. And so it is something which is a phenomenon that is here. And from time to time, you may hear in the news of Muslims doing it. We had one sister in Virginia in 2018. Her name is Nora Ayaz, an Ivy League lawyer, a sister who was at the height of her career, used to help and help people with domestic violence issues. Just found dead. She killed her 9-year-old and her 11-year-old kid, shot them to death, and then shot herself. You know, last year in April, in Texas, 2 young men from Bangladesh. This sister was from Qatar. One is 19-year-old Farhan and his brother Tanweer, 21-year-old kid. They decided, you know what? Let's make a pact that the two of us will kill ourselves. College students. And then they said, one of them turned to the other and says, well, mom and dad is going to be really upset about this. How are they going to get past this suicide death of us? So they came up with a plan. Let's kill mom and dad as well. So they killed their mom, they killed their dad, they killed their grandmother, they killed their twin sister, and then they shot themselves. 6 of them was found in their apartment. Dead. Muslims. A couple of weeks ago in Boynton Beach, the 18-year-old kid took his life. I saw in the Imam's WhatsApp chat that the ISNA convention, which was held early September this year, one of the kids left the Sunday night when they have the entertainment session, went and threw himself off the top of the car garage, left a suicide note for his parents, 13 years of age. And so this phenomenon is among the Muslims as well. And so we have got to become cognizant as a community of this reality. It's really right here, and there are so many other cases among the Muslims which time does not permit. I can tell you intimately that Guyana, my country which I came from, was cited as the country which has among the highest rates of suicide in the world. Small country of not less than 1 million people, where people are killing themselves. I personally had 2 cousins who killed themselves from Guyana. I have a best friend who I grew up with, killed himself. Muslims. I wish they had called me. So this issue is slowly creeping in and encroaching in our communities. And so we have got to be able to take some time, take a khutbah, and try to address it. And inshallah, we want to talk a little bit about this today, so that all of us can become a little more aware, a little bit more conscious, and alert to this reality that is happening among us. Over the course of being Imam, I have fielded many calls of young people with depression and all kinds of mental health issues calling the masjid, calling us to ask for help. We have situations where parents don't know how to handle their child that has become depressed. We had a parent who threw his child out, a girl child, out of the house on the street because misunderstanding her depression to be laziness and don't want to do anything in the home, and they said, you're useless, we need to throw you out. And then that girl had to call us to be able to get help. Had parents call me, young man, my son is sitting here with me in the home and he says he wants to kill himself. I said, call 911 and let them take him to the hospital, emergency right now. And I went over there and I met with the young man. He loved a girl that he was not allowed to marry. And so he felt his life is over. He don't want to marry any other girl except this girl. And the girl's parents says, there is no way that my daughter is going to ever marry you. Period. I will send her out the country if I have to. And so he said, well, I will kill myself. Alhamdulillah, he was talked out of it. We were able to solve his problem. But this is an issue in our community. It is happening all the time. And we have got to address it from several levels. First of all, parents. If you are a parent of a child, we've got to become conscious as parents that your children that is growing up in this society is facing extraordinary challenges. In fact, when they try to determine the reasons of why Muslim kids are committing suicide, they came up with 2 reasons. I said the first is the extreme discrimination and pressure that our kids face, and secondly, the stigma of the Muslim community that exists. The discrimination comes from, because of Islamophobia, our kids are being looked at and mocked and attacked and bullied and harassed in every strata that they go. Recently, a teacher got suspended because of how she behaved towards a Muslim kid. So our children, when they go out there, they're facing, people are telling them, you're useless, you're an enemy, you're bad, your religion is a gutter religion. This is by pastors, that Islam is an evil religion, uttered by one of the big pastors. So our children growing up don't have the capacity and the ability to process all of that, and it gets to them. It gets to them. And then you have parents who sometimes, when the children don't meet up to their expectations, begin to say terrible words to their children. You're a failure. You didn't get your grades which we expected. You're not taking the college credits. And so sometimes parents use harsh words to their children. You're useless. I wish you weren't born. You're no good to us. You're a disgrace to the family. And children take all of that in and come to a conclusion that life is not worth living anymore. And so that's one of the reasons why our children are taking their lives. And the other one is the social stigma that is attached in our community. It is taboo to tell someone your child is depressed, because most of us think that depression means you lack iman. That how are you losing hope in Allah? What kind of a child is this? What kind of person is this? That depression means lack of iman. And so we tend to think of that. And so when a parent has a child, they are shy to come forward and tell other people that my child is not behaving right, that my child is depressed, because of the social backlash they will get. People will look at them, what kind of a parent are you? How are you raising kids like this? You're a very bad parent. And so most parents, they keep it in the house, because the cultural stigma among our community. We have got to normalize that and to allow parents to understand it is okay to have a depressed child. I remember a parent calling me, one of my own relatives. She was like in total shock because she was living in this bubble world. And then one of her kids became depressed and behaving strange. And she was like, could not understand, what is it I did wrong as a parent? All the others are successful. What happened to this one? She could not grasp the idea that this is pretty normal in this society where all that is happening, that our children are going to become depressed and they're going to have mental health disorders. Because we don't even teach that in school anymore. We never did. And religion is the one that gives you how to have proper mental health and how to have balance, how to trust in Allah's will, how to have the wisdom of when things coming your way, to put that trust. Religion teaches us how to have good mental health. And so when the kids are growing up and they're not religious, there's nothing for them to go after. And so we have this big issue. And so parents, I want to say to you that you have got to be very, very, very alert and pay attention to your child. If you see your child is suddenly dropping in grades, if you see your child used to enjoy an activity and then suddenly they don't have no desire for it, if you see your child not sleeping well, having some eating disorder suddenly develop, if you see a child physically withdrawing from the world and things, if you see a child becoming emotionally disconnected from reality, if you see a child beginning to speak like this, we're all going to dead anywhere, so why waste time? I might as well kill myself now. We hear our children saying, I feel useless, like what am I here for? I can't do nothing that makes sense. I'm always displeasing everybody. I might as well kill myself. When we see our child having changes, we've got to understand and err on the side of thinking the worst. Don't begin to make excuses and say, you know what, he's going through a phase, she's going through a phase, and we become numb and we become not alert to what is happening to our children. All the children committing suicides came from very good homes. But parents sometimes are very busy trying to feed them, that they don't pay attention to the small, subtle changes, and children don't come and talk to their parents about any of their issues. Young people have found that the last person I want to talk to about my issues is my parent, because I ain't able with the next lecture again. And so they don't come to us. But you as a parent have got to begin to understand, no one can do this job for us. If you see some changes in your child, you've got to be able to say, I need to get help. And from the masjid level, the masjids have got to begin to offer services for mental health, for suicide, for depression to the community. All our workers, our mental health people who are specialized in this field need to volunteer their services. Come to the leadership of the masjid and say, I'm a psychiatrist, I'm a psychologist, I'm a therapist, I'm involved in this field of mental health. I would like to make myself available for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a resource to the community, and come to the leadership of the masjid so that they can organize and mobilize a set of people who our parents can now access. Because we can't solve this alone. Yes, there's the suicide hotline, and we could go to non-Muslim sources and take your kid there, but a lot of times they don't understand our culture. So you will meet a therapist who don't understand how a Muslim thinks, don't understand the psychology of how we are, who we are. And so when they're sitting with us, they don't understand our position. They don't understand our need to pray, why we fast, and they are unable to efficiently sometimes treat us, because they don't know our culture, they don't know our religion, they don't know our psychology, they don't understand our psyche, nothing. That is why we need in-house Muslims who are specialized in this field to come forward, and not only to just volunteer, to help in mobilizing a team of people so that we have available, and I know we have a lot among our community available. We've got to network this and be able to do this. We can't have a 13-year-old killing themselves. 13 is a transition age. These are the ages when it's the most vulnerable. And so all of us collectively have got to begin the discussion among ourselves and engaging our children in understanding this. But more importantly, we've also got to provide a safe space, provide activities for the young people, an opportunity for them to mix with fellow Muslims, young people, good young people, who they can be inspired and who they can, because when a Muslim child remains segregated with no opportunity to hang out with good Muslim kids, who we think they hang out with? They will hang out with people who will feed them information and things about them that is negative. And so part of the obligation of our community is to create lots of programs and opportunities for young people to come. Drama club, lecture club, sports activities, so that the young people could come and be motivated and have purpose and mix among good Muslim children and be inspired by the piety of another Muslim youth that they see there. The Hafiz of Quran and those brothers who already have the discipline and the commitment and the piety should become advocates to help the other Muslim youth. It's not enough to sit and memorize the Quran and you just recite it in Salah. These are the young people that actually have to take the initiative and mobilize themselves. All the Hufaz need to organize themselves in one collective group and make a great deal of effort in helping the other kids who are not so pious to come forward, because the Hufaz have commitment. If there's one thing they have, discipline and commitment and love for Islam, they need to share that with the other young people. They need to create some of the programs and initiate it so that the young people have and become inspired by not just listening to them, but actually being their friends. The Imams have got to become more qualified. There's a lot of new programs now that is being offered by Muslim organizations that qualifies Imam and help them. First, the Imam has to have the ability to recognize a spiritual issue from a medical issue. Because everybody comes to the Imam Imam, my son has a jinn, for example. Got a call from Boca. My son have a jinn. Now the Imam goes there. We went there to meet the son. Now, first job we have, is it a medical problem or is it a spiritual problem? Is it a jinn problem or is it a pretend problem? It turned out that the brother, 18-year-old kid, was pretending to have a jinn because he didn't like what his father and mother was telling him to do. And so he started to custom up and behave like if he have a jinn so that he could get away with doing whatever he want and they would appease him. When we went and saw it, we recognized right away this young man was just playing tricks on his family. I told his father and mother, I said, send him, tell him you're going to send him to the chief imam in Bangladesh. That you're paying a ticket for him to go back there and the imam in Bangladesh is going to treat him. Since he's here, he's got to go back to Bangladesh. The jinn went away mysterious, almost automatically. Right? So the imam has to distinguish. Is it a genuine spirit? Imam and the wife not getting along. But we got to figure out, is it a mental problem? Is it a medical problem? Is it something happening? Maybe the wife is depressed or the husband is depressed. Or is it a spiritual problem? Had a lady call us up, she said, Imam, the husband called us up actually, said, my wife has a jinn. When we found out, she admitted that she just wanted to take a break for him for 6 months, so she pretended to have a jinn. 90% of jinn cases are false alarms. But this is a reality. Right? And so all of us collectively have got to begin to have discussions and to create services and programs to be able to help our community. And I think we are perfectly capable. We have enough qualified personnel in our community to champion this and become a beacon to be able to resolve this issue. There is no reason. Our Islam is so powerful that when our young people begin to understand it properly, suicide will be the last thing on their mind. Because Islam, when you understand it well, when you practice it, it produces an optimistic, dynamic, charismatic, ambitious person within the person. The whole faith is designed to produce people who are absolutely exceptional, heroic in their qualities, championing in causes. So we have got to get our young people to connect to Islam so that they can be able to see and experience and feel the amazing beauty of Islam. And then this will be the last thing on their minds. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to get there. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help all of us to make sure you keep looking at your children and be very careful about it. And if you're not sure what is happening, diagnose it as the worst possible scenario rather than the best possible scenario. Diagnose it as the worst possible and do something seriously about it, inshallah. قولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا كثيرا طيبا مبارك فيه ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده ونشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله يذكركم وأقيموا الصلاة. I want to also ask I see the principal of the school here to also make this a very big part of the curriculum of the school to be provided. I'm pretty sure they're already trying to do some of this, inshallah.